What's going on, everybody? Slyakagreyfox here, and this evening we have a special stream going. I will be doing a playthrough from scratch of the Banner Saga 2, and we will be doing a Q&A with the devs talking about things like the development, the music, lore, and everything beyond that. But I can't do that alone, so I'll get right into it. I'm, of course, Slyakagreyfox down at the bottom, and with me I have some very special people. I'll allow you to kind of introduce yourselves, so tell everybody what you do. Let's start with you, Khatie. You're right above me.
Hi, I'm Khatie. I'm the community manager for Stoic for the Banner Saga games.
That was simple. And above her is Zeb.
It's me? My turn?
Yes, your turn.
Oh, God. I wasn't prepared. Hi, my name is Zeb West. I'm the producer for Stoic Studios. I'm out here in Berkeley, California. We're all in different parts of the world right now. It's good to be here. I'm happy to be here. Play some video games.
Happy to have you here. And above Zeb is John, allowing you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John Watson. I'm the technical director, and Arnie and I founded the studio together, so we've been at this for almost 5 years, I guess. I'm in Seattle.
And above John
Hello.
is Arnie.
I'm Arnie Jorgensen, the co-founder with John Watson and the art director. I'm hailing from right near Austin, Texas. So as you can see, the Stoic studio is all over the realm. We all work from home in different areas of America and Australia and wherever.
It's awesome, man. I was under the assumption that Stoic was just a centralized studio in one location, but now...
We were at one point.
Oh.
Yeah,
we started in Austin.
Yeah. And then John moved away, and at that point I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go work from home too. And then we kind of just all went home. And our writer right now is actually traveling around America. He travels around with a little casita, and he's up in the Redwood Forest, and he's over in the Dakotas, and then down in Wyoming. You never know where he's going to log in from, but that's a fun lifestyle too.
Well, it's good to have all of you here. Thank you so much. Thank you again so much for coming and doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure my community appreciates it as well. Again, like I said, I'll be doing a fresh playthrough of the Banner Saga 2, starting from the beginning. I don't want to give, for people who are new to Banner Saga, I don't want to give too much away. So if you haven't played the first one, go play the first one. Like, it's really such an awesome game, a really good story. And for my playthrough this time, what I'll be doing a fresh playthrough from the Rook perspective. Because in my playthrough, I chose to keep Alette alive. So now this is going to be new to me, because I don't know what goes on in Banner Saga 2 from Rook's perspective.
Oh, it's going to get real. Just get ready.
Well, yeah, we have an achievement, a Rook-specific achievement that Arnie can guide you through. I think it might be a little tedious, though.
Okay.
You can try if you want to. It's one of those things in the game that we actually, we designed it not thinking anybody could beat it, and then we beat it. And instead of saying we'll make it harder so it's unbeatable, we just said, well, okay, for those hardcore players that can beat it, let's put a little achievement in there and add a little storyline for it. So it kind of snowballed from there.
Can you give any hints to this achievement?
You'll see it really soon.
Okay. But here we are, starting from the beginning, and
Tíminn líður áfram, eins og straumþung á sem fleytir okkur áfram. Time continues.
And one thing I do love about this game, we'll talk about it in a little while, is
like waves.
the limited voice acting there is really good.
Some more fears, more.
That's all done by our friends over in Searland, who are located in Iceland.
So few of my kind.
So when we found out, like, okay, we're doing a Viking game, we said, what's the closest thing we can get to Old Norse of Viking? And it happens to be the Icelanders.
while able to bear
closer than
children,
anybody else.
suffer more for the loss of loved ones.
And when we originally started the project, we were going to do all the voiceover in Icelandic.
But the chaos of the world,
because we were like, yeah, let's just do it art style. But then we
The
realized that everyone would be
breaking.
looking at the subtitles instead of the video.
Right.
The shame poured hastily
So then we did a crossfade.
for the
By the way, I
safety
believe
of
that
others.
this one, however,
The human
this intro
captain.
video, I believe, was not done by Searland. I
But
think
the
it's the only
river
one that we
curses
gave it a
us
very
with
clear,
clear
distinct.
view.
This one is Searland. It's the recap that's not by us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a recap video for people who want to remember what happened in the first game.
That's right.
Yeah, we do that for those and promotional videos as well, because for promotional videos, we want the dialect to be as clear, plain English as possible. Like, you don't want to try to tell somebody your game is out and they don't understand what you're saying.
I should actually watch the Twitch more. I thought this was the recap, but no.
That's just, yeah, it's just the intro. Is it still on the table to actually maybe get Icelandic in? Because I think that, like, from the Norse perspective, I think that would be kind of a unique thing to have. Like, well, in the game, I actually hear, and I'm not sure if it's Icelandic itself, but when you do certain actions, there certain battle cries that you hear.
Yes, that's all Icelandic.
Okay.
And whenever we start a story, we usually start it in Icelandic and crossfade it to the same speaker speaking English. But yeah, all the characters in the game are actually screaming or speaking Icelandic.
Okay. Yeah, and I would be one person who doesn't know English. Hearing Icelandic text, hearing Icelandic voices while reading subtitles, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, they do a good job. They'd probably be up for it.
I bet they'd be more up for it, in fact, than trying to say it in English half the time.
Yeah, it's funny because doing the English stuff, they kind of, we had a lot of go back and forth with them, and a lot of pushbacks, and like, oh man, you know, this actor feels really self-conscious. His English isn't very good. We're like, perfect. It's exactly what we want.
Especially the voice
They're all nervous about it.
Johan Sigurdarsson does the voice of Ubin, and at first he was refusing to do it. We had to really talk to them, say, no, really, we really love his voice. And he just didn't feel good about it. He also sings on the Saga 1 OST, by the way. It's his voice that's singing in the background for a lot of it.
So he worked closely with Austin, I'm guessing?
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have a YouTube of him doing some of the singing.
Yeah, if you want, you can throw that link in the chat if you want.
Yeah, we find it.
Nice, John. Johnny on the spot with this stuff.
Cross-referencing, I can do so many things at once. It's ridiculous.
He's got like 16 Matrix monitors in front of him right now. He's checking all the interwebs.
He's gonna put on his VR headset in a minute.
Just gonna see him looking around.
Whoa.
Hey guys.
You see
Now-
his little hand reach into.
Now, one thing not a lot of people know about is kind of how this game came into place, how it came to be. What's the origin story behind Banner Saga and how it began from early stages to where it is?
John, you want to take this, or you want me to take this?
Well, I'll start. So Arnie and Alex and I were all working together. Arnie and I worked together for a long time. In fact, I worked with Arnie for my entire games career, one company or another.
Previous to this, 11 years.
Yeah. So we were all kind of wrapping up the Star Wars: The Old Republic project. It was in its last, year or less of development, and we were thinking about what to do next. And once that project was over, we all got together. But Arnie and Alex had this idea, like it kind of came about organically, like it spiraled around, like, all right, turn-based strategy. Okay, that's cool, but not medieval. Play it out. All right, so make it a Viking story, and it turned into this really, really cool, like really took on the sort of Viking mythology aspect of being a big saga with, you know, crazy mythological activities. And Arnie decided on the art style to go with it, which was basically emulating 1958 film Sleeping Beauty, which I was totally on board with, and we just took it from there. I mean, Arnie, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I think you did a pretty good job of that. And then from there, we started developing it, and you know, we thought it was going to be kind of a little-known indie project. And so then we said, let's run a Kickstarter, and we were thinking it wouldn't be, you know, met with too much success, and we kind of did much bigger than we thought we would. We asked for 100,000. I think we wound up with 723,000. So then we promised everybody we're going to roll it all into the game, which we did. So we put it all into the game. We wound up with a rather large game for a small studio like ours was. And ever since then, we've been trying to upkeep that level. So that's where we find ourselves today, working really hard to try to keep up with it.
Now, the one thing you mentioned, which I was about to ask, was about the art style. And I was kind of curious about that because when I started playing it, I told my friends about it, and they came and watched it. Oh, it's Disney with Vikings and bloodshed. Yeah, that's pretty much. I never was aware that it was actually Sleeping Beauty that was the inspiration for the art style. Mm-hmm. And actually, speaking of the art style, Khatie most graciously gave me a few sketches.
Those are from Arnie.
Oh, Arnie. Yeah, Arnie. Thank you.
Katie's really good too, though.
But yeah, Arnie.
You don't want me doing concept art.
Yeah, Arnie. I want to talk about the art that you the sketches that you gave me. First, I'll go over the first Varl sketch right here.
Right. But before we jump into that, and not to split hairs too much, but the backgrounds are taken from, we're trying to go for a Sleeping Beauty-esque atmosphere, but the characters are our own thing. So here we go. This is, I sent this one to you because it's a very little, we haven't really shown it at all. And it was the very first, we were just talking about the idea of the Varl and the game and what we're going to be building. And the Varl kind of epitomize what we think of as the Vikings, these horned, huge dudes with big burly beards. And so kind of riffing on that, this was the very first shot that I thought, like, how about something like this? You know, they wear this heavy armor on top of their head that's designed around their horns and things. And then from this point, we kind of modified it. But you can see sometimes where concepts start and then eventually what they get to.
So was this the oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Dig those jaw horns. It's intense.
Yeah, dude.
Was this where Ivor came into play?
Yeah, I mean, he eventually well, this was kind of a generic, what does a Varl look like? He didn't grow necessarily into Ivor, but Ivor and all the Varl spawned from this original drawing. Okay. Ivor's actually my son. He's the one that was sitting behind me playing a game. So
really,
my character's named after my son. Yeah,
looks just like him too.
And we just heard him giggle too.
Yeah, that's Ivor.
And this next sketch is the Shield Maiden.
Yeah, and I sent this one over to show kind of how we change and how I do the original drawings of the characters. So before I draw them in this sort of flatline flood fill cartoony or animated look, I kind of sketch them out really rough like this, and we play with some different ideas. And this one, you can see the Folka on the right, or the Shield Maiden on the right, was this burly woman that, you know, we wanted to make a really tough girl that you don't want to mess with, you know?
Right.
And that's what we came up with. But then to juxtapose her character in this tough role, we actually said, no, let's make her face look a little bit, you know, kinder and lighter. She's with the Ravens, who are this notoriously evil, not evil, but hardcore mercenary group. So we figured that this would add a lot more interest to the character. So you can see in the middle there, I did the original sketch of her face and then kind of morphed it onto her body. And that's kind of how we got there with the Shield Maiden.
And we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but it kind of parallels off of the other, you know, female characters and how, like, a lot of female characters in this game are so strong-willed, yet when you take a look at them, it might not seem that way, especially with Yrsa. Ursa is like Ursa is just so deadly, but when you take a first glance at her, she smiles at you. And she's so jovial, but it's behind that it's deadly.
And she burns your house down.
Yeah. And yeah, Ursa's definitely my favorite. By the way.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have those themes going with the with women in our game. We want to definitely make sure that they're very strong characters. I mean, when you picture a woman in what we're doing with the Viking-esque type world, they're really proving themselves, and they're not just women that kind of sit back waiting for someone to kind of show them the way or save them like some princess in distress, but they're on the front lines and doing what they can do also to help the clan get through.
Yeah, and set in this kind of setting too. I mean, it's definitely a patriarchal society where it's male power dominates, and given that setting, it's an interesting dynamic to address in the game. It creates really compelling and realistic interactions between the characters where it's not just all stereotypes.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I'm the king and you're the princess. Type situation.
Totally deviated.
Right.
Yeah. It's boring, like that would just be boring.
We have had some really fun feedback from people that hate us, calling us socialists and politically correct Scandinavians. Go back to your homeland. We don't want your games. They think we're actually from Scandinavia designing a game that's very socialist and politically correct and all these things. It's really funny.
Yeah. Somebody accused us of like propagandizing in favor of helping refugees.
Yeah.
Like any of these things aren't compliments somehow?
Yeah, like thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the last sketch of the landscape, I thought this was really interesting to see it from beginning to where it comes to fruition in the actual game.
Right. Yeah, so this is a shot right here on the top. You can see that when I sketch out the scenes, it's wicked loose and pretty ugly, and it doesn't matter to me because when I'm sketching, if I already have done it enough that I know what a final product should be, what level it's, the detailing's at, what level the graphics are at, I get really simply graphic with my sketches. These are just for me, and I'll know that blob on the far right is a grouping of trees. I'll know that that blob in the back is a farmhouse, but this is the way I laid them all out before. It's a flat image, and then what I do is I draw the different layers individually. So what you're looking at on the bottom one is not a simple singular flat image. That's about 9 layers that recede, and they're all drawn on different layers. And then in between, of course, we put clouds and all sorts of snow and different effects that are moving around them. But as you move through the scene and pan it left and right, then it kind of moves, it parallaxes. But the original sketches are always just on a flat JPEG, and then I break it all out from there.
And the one thing I like about these images within the game is what you did in certain situations with the foreground. Like, for instance, days before the battle fight, when you're in town and you're doing everything, getting ready, as you talk to people, you go back out to that scene, and on the foreground, you see the dredge approaching and doing stuff. Like, the dredge kind of build into the foreground, and then there are some instances where you might be in a scene like this, and the dredge are approaching. What made you want to do that?
What made us want to put like dredge in the foreground and things like that?
Yeah.
That's kind of motivated on when you come into a scene, we have different village scenes and city scenes and traveling scenes. This one right here would be considered a village scene. We want to do that so that the scene isn't static, so it's changing with the story. So oftentimes in the story, one player would do something in this scene, whether it's start a fire, whether it's kill people and leave bodies, or whatever the heck it is. Their scene will be modifying, so we'll turn on different layers to support what just happened in their story. So when you see dredge in the foreground or something, that scene feels more alive to the player, rather than just being a static scene. And really, that's all we're doing, is trying to add life to the game and life to the decisions that you're making.
And I'm glad you did. Because whenever I saw that, I was actually a little bit scared of what was going to happen next, but I thought it was the coolest thing that it just changed. It wasn't just this.
Was this in Borsgard, or where was this?
Yeah, it was pretty dramatic in Borsgard.
It was very
dramatic in Borsgard. There was another location that it actually
Frostfeller, it happened there.
Yep.
No,
happened in a lot of places, really.
Yeah, I know it didn't happen in Avro. Yeah, there were quite a few places that
Sure.
actually
Yeah. But that's what we're doing. We're just really trying to make the art support the story. Everything we do here is it starts with the story, and then I get on board, and we go back and forth and talk about the scene and what's the feeling of this village. Is it a small fishing village? Is it a defensed village? You know, all that stuff, and we kind of feed this art into the support the story. So any variables that pop up, like ooh, the dredge appeared because they blew some horn or whatever, I'm going to say, oh, okay, and keep that in mind and try to make that come to life when the player makes those decisions.
No, and again, Arnie, thank you so much for sharing these sketches.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm happy to do so. I like seeing the kind of under the hood on games myself. So.
Oh yeah, it's always a great thing. Another thing I wanted to talk about before actually getting to board, that in itself is huge. The decision on the gameplay, making it turn-based, making it grid-based. How did that come about?
I've always loved turn-based strategies. When I was younger, I used to design games all the time, but it was more like tabletop games, and so it was like it just translates very easily into a video game. So when Alex and I were first coming up with the concept of the Banner Saga, we said, well, let's do turn-based because we could play it out on a chessboard. We could practice or look into how do we design the systems? How do we balance this? And we did a lot of that kind of while approaching John, to work with us. And then once John came on board, it was, it just stayed. This is a turn-based game. This is what we've been designing before we even had an engine to put it into,
I think we all come from a background of liking turn-based strategy games.
Mm-hmm.
Turn-based strategy in general. Like I like real-time strategy as well. 4X games, So that's.
We like games in general, yeah.
But strategy-oriented games are things that I've always dug into. So.
Another thing was we love those games so much, turn-based strategy. But when we first started doing this was like when there weren't that many, yet. And then XCOM comes out and we come out, and there's now a slew of really good turn-based strategy games out there.
Right.
But at the time we thought like, ooh, we're reviving this, old gameplay design that hasn't been done in a long time. And now it's, not as rare anymore, but it's still fun.
And because everybody can kind of see, and when I talk to people about it, I tell them it's Oregon Trail, but Vikings. And not really why, but what made you want to kind of put the Oregon Trail-esque portion of the gameplay into the game?
You want to take this, John, or you want me to?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it has the aspect of traveling. Like we had lots of different ideas about how to do the gameplay, and the traveling thing kind of came about, I think, later on during the concepting part. Like, can we travel across the landscape and show these cool landscapes and give you something to manage, give you some resources to manage. The other game that was really a source of inspiration was a game called King of Dragon Pass, which case you're kind of managing your clan and making decisions relative to them and other clans. So we kind of said, well, imagine that sort of King of Dragon Pass on the road. Of course, that has some similarities to Oregon Trail in a way. I mean, Oregon Trail was kind of a misery simulator.
Kind of like this. King of Dragon Pass also was really, we liked it because you're playing a character, but you don't control everything. The other, clan leaders and stuff in the game have their own minds, and they can do things, no, we're not following you, and we're going to do this. And we thought that was really kind of cool. One funny thing is when we first ran the Kickstarter, we pitched this idea in a Kickstarter. It was in the video, like, travel across and see these things, happen to villages. And And at that point, we were thinking we're going to do an overhead map with a little chit that kind of moves across the map.
Mhm.
But then running the Kickstarter, we had so much feedback, like, I can't wait to travel across this vast landscape and see. And we were like, whoa, uh-oh. So we knew that it was because of the Kickstarter and the feedback from the players, which we still take today. We're reading all the feedback from players and we try to incorporate as much of it as we can, because oftentimes they have some of the best ideas. But we didn't have the whole world travel mechanic at all. And it took us a while after the Kickstarter saying, well, what do we do now? Well, we pull way out. We actually show them traveling, you know, the entire way. We didn't think we could do that. It took us a while to figure out how to do it. But man, are we glad we did that. If we never ran the Kickstarter, the Banner Saga would not look like this at all.
Well, I think we're all glad that it looks the way it does. That's another thing I do love about it when you're actually traveling.
Yeah.
And you see everybody part in the caravan. And sometimes it's a smaller caravan, but sometimes when you're with a larger party, it definitely shows, even in scale, on like it's smaller sprites and everything, but it just shows how massive your caravan is, how many people, and it kind of, for me, whenever you lost somebody, whenever you lost, like, I don't know, 27 borrowers, this many number of fighters, it kind of hit at me a little bit. I'm like, did I see it on? Did they really just leave? Okay. Thank you. But yeah, I really love that about the artwork and showing not only the vastness of the map, and that's another thing we'll get into, but the scale of your actual caravan and people who are in your care. Now that's another thing I wanted to mention was the map, and once I actually get to a portion where we can see the map, I want to talk about that because I have a few questions about the map's creation, pretty much world creation in general. If you want to talk about how you went about creating the names of locations,
yeah, sure.
Seas, mountains, things like that.
When you come to the map, we'll pause and we'll talk all about that.
Okay.
But yeah, that was once again helped by somebody that's really big into linguistics who met us through the Kickstarter, who lives in Norway, and he did that, and his name was Einar, and so we said, thanks a lot, Einar. We'll name the Varl city Einartoft after you, right? So that's why we did that. But he helped us with all the names to make sure that they were legit, and it was awesome. Just people like that we met through Kickstarter made this game so much better with us. But a lot of what we did in this game was to try to satisfy what we thought the players were hoping and dreaming to see in this game. And I don't think many games are designed that way. Actually, usually games are designed with some designers in a room, some office, and they come up with design ideas. And ours was definitely, a lot of our motivation came from what the players were feeding back to us on what they were imagining into this game from seeing the Kickstarter video. And once again, the map actually grew directly from feedback from the players and what we felt that they were hoping for in this saga.
Some supplies right now.
By the way, normally Zeb talks more, but we're talking about origin stuff right now. Zeb joined us soon after Saga 2, and so he'll be talking more when we catch up to speed on that.
I'm just enjoying hearing all these stories from before my time.
The olden days.
Okay.
Well, by the way, we've known Zeb for a long time too. We worked with Zeb at BioWare as well, so he's an old buddy.
Very old.
Now, and I'm gonna pan out for the map here. Here it is. Here we're right now in Grimstaller.
Yeah, so here you go. This is I started drawing the map, and we kept going crazier and crazier with it, making it bigger and bigger, and adding in more and more places. And Alex, who was the writer at the time, we said, well, what do we want to show? Do we just want to show the clickables or the areas that you're going to be on, or do we want to take this map and use it to explain some of the lore and get across the feeling of our whole world. And I'm really glad we did that, because we could move away from like having codexes that people pick up or force feeding it through conversations. Oh, the Varl are a very ancient race. Don't you realize this? And they live far to the north. Of course, you know this, you know. And so it allows players to just go to the map if they want and learn more about the game on their own time. And so we start off with a few clickables, and you know, okay, we'll follow the route that the players go, and it grew from there till every single mountain range, if you click on, hover over any icon at all, any little design, you'll get feedback from that, and it'll give you the history of it. We went in, we did a lot of thinking about the backstory and the world that we were building, and we're hoping if the Banner Saga continues to be successful, that someday we'll be able to see it all and kind of explore deeper into the world. It could even be a different game, but maybe exist in this world, and we'd like to show players more of it if we can.
And I've spent so much time, like, even off stream, just looking at this map. Like, wondering what's past Dalaran. Knowing probably there's nothing past the Vast, and there's nothing past the Inner Sea, because it tells you it's nothing past the Inner Sea. But what's past Dalaran? And they mention travel past the Brackish Sea. It's difficult because it's sludgy and everything. But I wonder if there's anything there, and only time will tell. With further development, if we will see past that. You thought about in 1 and 2, when you thought about were you kind of limited with the map you had from 1, or did you want to go past what you?
Well, we knew. Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
I mean, in 1 and 2, we barely even cover a fragment of the map. Like we cover a triangle from Strand. Down to Skogar, to Borsgard, and then to Arborang. So it's a little bit of Grofheim as well. So it's a relatively small segment of the map gets seen so far.
But yeah, so when we first developed the story for the entire Banner Saga, we were going to launch it as one game, and we realized very quickly this is going to take years and years and years to tell the full story. But we knew what the full story was, and the full story takes place in this landmass that you see. So we hadn't ever given thought of leaving this landmass for Saga 1, 2, 3, but we have given thought to what would be out there, you know, just in our minds, fleshing out the whole world that we're trying to design here. But we knew you wouldn't adventure there. So we have this idea of what's out here, but there's no reason to go into it as much depth as we have on this map.
So any hints as to what we may see in the future in terms of this, not only this map, but maybe further past?
Oh yeah, I mean, we enjoy the world, we enjoy building this game, and I think we've always said as long as people continue to enjoy it with us, and it's viable to keep our studio afloat, we'll continue to develop for it. I mean, that's the hope, and we'll see.
Good. Again, I love the female characters in Oddworks. Like in 1, I love Odd.
Yeah.
Not only as a playable character, her story behind.
Move a little closer to the mic, Sly.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Sorry.
thanks.
Sorry if I'm trailing off. Yeah, I loved Odd's story. From where she left the king and she became part of your group, and she teaches other girls how to shoot bows and shoot for food and defend themselves. That's one. And that goes back to the strong female characters. But again, my favorite has to be Ursa. And I want to go to that. Who, if you had to pick, and this is for all of you, if you had to pick a favorite character within the game, not only just off of development, just in general, who would it be and why?
I've got to pause for 1 second to let you know that Ursa is John's girlfriend. So she acted all the scenes for the female characters in the game. And so to thank her, I actually traced a photo of her face and put it on Ursa. So that's John's girlfriend, Shaylee. Fiance,
Wow.
I'm sorry.
So he has to say that's his favorite.
John will say Ursa's his favorite, yeah. I would have to say Trigvy's mine because I love the writing of Trigvy. That dude comes out of left field. You never know what he's going to say, but you better listen to him. So
Trigvy reminds me of Nick Cage in Raising Arizona.
Yeah. Trigvy's great. He's one of my favorites as well.
He should be like running with a bundle of Huggies.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can just hear the music, wee, behind.
He's like one I like Echo a lot because he was so like, and he just like throws you off.
He's just freaked out.
What is wrong with this guy? But obviously, as we know, it turns out he's kind of on the level, a little bit,
at times.
Yeah.
My favorite is Folka. I was excited to see that piece of concept art I hadn't seen before. I think she's cool because she's like secretly the leader of the Ravens, like she's kind of holding it together while this like berserker who's probably like kind of not really a suitable leader of any kind of organization just because he's probably kind of anarchy and chaos in his mind. I just like this sort of like odd relationship and sort of imagining like, where did she pick this guy up? Or where did she join the caravan and be like, I'm going to throw my hat in with this guy, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I do like Bulwark, even though we kind of see where it goes in the end. And I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't played 2, but I like Bulwark as a character. He like you said, he's a berserker. Sometimes he's level, but whenever, like, put it this way, I like having Bulwark on my side.
Yeah, he's a really interesting character. For sure. I mean, it's, a lot of people complain that they don't want to be put in his shoes. Like they want to play the heroic, good character, and then they're forced to play like, man, you forced me to play as Bulwark. I don't want to be this guy. But, it's a really interesting character. He's very pragmatic, and, they're mercenaries, and they're like neutral evil. He's like neutral evil or something. He's like whatever needs to get, whatever needs to happen to get the job done, they'll do it.
I think most people can find some comfortable decisions with Bulwark, though. I think the writing is wide enough for him that if you want to play the burly, badass mercenary leader, you can, but you can also play him differently. Certainly because of a certain storyline that I won't go into in depth here, but something's definitely affecting his psyche and allowing him to, in some ways, act even nicer than he normally may.
Yeah. Nika Harper actually wrote a series of short stories about Folka's backstory.
Yes.
I just pasted those into the chat, or the link to them into the chat. Those are really,
John.
if you want to know more about Folka.
Will we see more short stories like this in the future, maybe?
Yeah, I would expect so. I mean, we don't have anything lined up, but it was definitely a nice collaboration with Nika on that. And I mean, Drew, the writer on the game, has got his hands full. But
James Fideli is already working on book 2 of Hatterborg, Gift of Hatterborg.
That's a full
novel.
Yeah, James came out and just started working on it and showed us a draft, and it was great. I'm like, yes, keep going.
Once again, he was just one of the community, a fan of the game, and we've been reached out to by so many people that said, I want to write a book, can I? And we're always like, sure, just if you start selling it, let us know or something, but you're welcome to write anything you want. And everybody washes out after a chapter or two because it's a lot of work. But we're like, yeah, sure, James. And he just kept plugging along, and like a year later hands us this fully written novel that was great. We said, yeah, let's publish this.
Yeah,
somebody asked.
Publish it. We got it up on Amazon now. The link was posted earlier, but I mean, as anybody knows who's done any kind of writing, it's really hard to make a living at writing. So if everybody can go and pick that book up off Amazon and give him a good review, that would be really helpful to him. and help him keep going.
Yeah, I saw somebody ask in the chat, like, what we think of, like, fan art and fan fiction and stuff like that. And I'm like, that stuff, like, we just, like, love it when it comes in. Like, we have, like, a Twitter feed in our Slack and stuff. And, like, anytime, like, we see somebody post something, we're like, oh, my God, did you see this? So we really, like, get a lot of energy. Like,
yeah. We see it as soon as it comes in, and we repost it as much as we can, you know, so we're happy to
cheerleading for the team.
Yeah, and we're happy to help promote it too. Like, help promote your work. If you share some with us, we're going to share it with our followers as well.
Now, I wanted to go into a little more detail about the lore, what goes into creating the lore, not only just the locations or the certain people or classes, but the mythos, the gods and the godstones and everything like that. What goes into that, or how does it come about?
The gods, well, the gods are dead at this point, but in your grandfather's day is when they died, and previous to that, people saw them walking the earth, which is a really weird idea to us today, but to them it was very real. At those points, they would create these godstones to pay homage to the different gods of the area. And for us, the godstones came about because of the runic Viking stones. And we said that would be a great place to at one point, it was save points in our game. Oh, this is a save game mechanic. You come across a runic stone. And then before the Kickstarter, we said, oh, you know what? We'll carve your face into one of these runic stones and make you a godstone for our Kickstarter backers. And we got, I think 10 of them were written by Kickstarter backers and with really cool ideas. And they went back and forth with us on the lore of them. So once again, that was a definite merging between us and our backers coming up with some of the lore for our game. And a lot of them sent me photos, and I put their faces right on the godstone. Gridvalder, all those guys are backers. In fact, Gridvalder was a backer that came out and got animated into our game. He's the spearmen. He did all the spearmen. And that was one of the best things about running the Kickstarter to us, was all this great collaboration. In the second game, Banner Saga 2, the one you're playing now, it worked so well that we actually reached out to the community again saying, hey guys, we're not doing another Kickstarter right now, but who wants to be on a godstone? And we had a competition, say, whoever, the 5 best godstones written, we'll put in the game and work back and forth with you on it. And we did. And once again, we're real happy with the fiction of those. So the gods in our story are interesting because, as I said, they were alive and now they're dead. But their lingering stories and the way that people interact with them is still very much alive, especially to the old geezers in the clan,
Yeah, and although the mythology and the lore in the game is all made up, invented for the game, many pieces of it are very intentionally linked to actual Norse mythology. And when we were developing, especially for the first couple of years, we were absorbing everything we could. We read every source material we could. I grabbed some things off my shelf to show you. Like, there's some great stuff. If you're interested in this, the story Strelson, the prose saga, prose Edda, I mean. This is a great source book. The Elder Edda. This is a book of lore. It's got all sorts of stories, and it's got all the poetry and kennings and how they play with words, and all the weird words they use for describing things. There's some bunch of sagas. The Saga of the Volsungs is good. Egil's Saga is a great one to read. Of course, the old standard.
Beowulf, of course.
I kind of grew up around this because my family came over from Denmark. And I used to grow up reading Leif the Lucky and kids' books like that, and I was really into it. And then when we started this, John got into it, and of course, like John does, he gets really deep into it. Now knows a lot more of it than I do. But like he said, there's lots of pictures in our game. The Menders and the Valka are sort of a picture of the Norns. The Varl are a picture of the Jotun, or the giants from the Norse myths. And we do it all over the place. You'll find items in the game like the world, I think we called it the world hook. I forget, but it's the huge hook that that some god pulled the serpent out of the water with, and that all goes back to Norse myths. So wherever possible, we're kind of weaving them in as much as we can. So we've had feedback from a lot of people from Scandinavia saying, this rings very true to our Norse myths, and it feels like it's in the correct zone of these beliefs, even though we've done our own thing with it, you know.
Yeah, here's a picture of Thor and the giant pulling
Right.
from the sea.
Yep.
With their golden. This is a great one. This is you can only get this used.
That's my favorite one. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
that
fantastic.
looks great.
It's like fairy tales almost. I read this to my daughter. It's got great illustrations, and it's pretty. It's really good. Finally, this one is great. This has got, and of all of the two, this one is actually extremely accurate in terms of matching what has been put down in the Eddas books I showed you earlier. And this is just full of illustrations. So the whole thing has got.
Those are done by the Dulaires, and they also did the Leaf the Lucky book that I grew up with. It's awesome.
The world creation stories and everything. Yeah.
So anyway, we got deep into that stuff, and then we kind of merged it with our own fictional world. That was Ivor waving.
Hi, Ivor.
Hi, Ivor.
My personal favorite, Beowulf, the god of mead, for obvious reasons. What was your favorite godstone? And this is for everybody. If you had to choose a god or godstone, essentially, what was your favorite?
Or John? I would say Hridvalder. I really liked Hridvalder.
Yeah.
It was one of the first ones you met, but it was I think the time when you met Hridvalder was just after Skoger, and I think players at that point were just, okay, now I'm into the game. Now I get the story and how they're switching places. So it happened at a point that was really, I think, good, in that the game is finally now cooking for people. And I just like the way that the art came out as well.
Yeah. Which one was a puzzle box? What was the name of that one?
That was the one that I believe that Sly just called out.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. That was Dunder.
Beowulf's was mine.
Beowulf's was yours, John. You're talking about Dunder, and Dunder was a guy that we worked with at BioWare as well, and he had a big burly beard, and we put him into the game.
Yeah,
called him as Dunder.
A friend of his actually pledged for the Kickstarter and then submitted his friend Dunder's face for the Godstone because he had this cool face, big beard. It's like, you had a friend. He's like, you know what? You need to be the Godstone because just the way you look.
I really like I don't think I've ever pronounced this word out loud, but Asilii.
Asalai.
Asalai.
God of rivers, the goddess of rivers.
Yeah, I just think it like snuck up on me in the way that the caravan approached it, and it's shaped differently than some of the other godstones, and it's like both kind of beautiful and mournful in a way.
The story about that was really cool too, and I enjoyed putting the anchors trying to hold her back from moving forward. And I agree with you, because you could see that the gods are now dead, and I don't believe Asili's moving at all anymore. But back in the day, the question is, was she really? Like, people were tying her down with ropes, sticking anchors in. I'd like to think she really was, crawling forward, moving down the river. But we kind of leave that in a weird gray area, like kind of all myths should be, and leave it up to the player a little bit.
Khatie, what about you?
So I don't know the name. You might have mentioned it. What's the tall one with the beardy guy? But it's the tall, pointy one.
Is that
Not
Dunder. Not Dunder.
well,
I like the shape of it. Sorry, I was just trying to find the name of it.
Dengler?
Dingler, the one that you encounter in chapter 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Dengler, and he was another supporter of the game, and we even wrote, in runic around them what they want to be known for and things like that.
That's what I liked.
He also had an item in the game as well.
I liked the shape of that one and the height of it. I just thought that seemed very very Northern
It
European.
was a very simple shaped stone, which is probably more akin to what the runic stones were looking like. Another thing we did, Sly, is all the items in the game were sent to us from backers, and they would take photos of things that were near and dear to their heart, and I would trace them and put them in the game, and oftentimes they would give me a sentence that we would copy and paste in there, and that was a really cool, fun thing that players did with us as well.
So the offerings that you kind of received from the Godstones were backer created?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we had in the first game 28 items or something, another 28 in the second game, and I bet about 20 of them were backer created.
I really like Ingrid, actually, because that's when there's a key moment that happens there when you find the drenched mother and the drenched baby. And that's when you start to realize, well, maybe we hinted at it all throughout, really, because all throughout the game, you're encountering these dredge in various situations. In a lot of cases, they're just sort of raiding your supplies and ignoring you, and they're not necessarily attacking you like an army. So we're kind of hinting that maybe they're not really the enemy you think they are, although Bellower has taken taken an interest in you. Yeah, that I think that's a moment when people start to realize, wait a second, these are people, like these aren't monsters. They're actually more to them than what I was thinking before. So that kind of, and of course that's elaborated on more in Banner Saga 2, but that's kind of a turning point where people, I think most players should at that point realize that, okay, there's more to this.
They're not one-dimensional, right?
They're not just faceless monsters. They're actually people.
Ingrid was also one of the places we used a rainbow, which we used several places in the game, and that always denotes something. But I won't go into it. But there's a lot of symbology in the artwork as you travel through the game that we never explain, but I'm hoping it's subconsciously there for players.
And as we were talking about items, and here looking at the items, some of these are newer to me, like the hilt of Arner.
Like which one?
The hilt, the playful hilt of Arner. That had to be. I'm guessing that was backer created because it's a hilt that looks like a controller.
That's a PlayStation only. That only exists on the PlayStation version.
Right.
Okay.
That was created by our friends at PlayStation. Right.
It was backer created in the sense that one of our backers is Sony.
Right. So we needed to do an item that was Sony specific, and I was looking at a controller going, what could we do with this? Maybe it's a hilt.
That's an exclusive thing. There's an exclusive
okay.
as well.
We did another one for Xbox that you would see a different one there.
Yeah, those are kind of fun. They kind of break the lore a bit, but it's whatever it is.
Yeah, it was a unique kind of nod that goes to PlayStation. Yeah,
that's probably the only time we actually did break the lore in our game was those two items.
Now you a second ago you mentioned the
here's a good one, Sly. Go back to the right from the items.
The one Trigby's wearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Click on Trigby.
Click on Trigby himself.
There you go. You see that item right there? Okay, so that's a good one. Nobody found out about that one for a long time, but that's one of those little Easter eggs. That's from what's his name?
Viking. There was a guy. So back in the
Techno Viking.
Back in the early 2000s or late 90s or something, there was this viral video that went around.
I know which one you're talking about.
It was this German parade, right? And they're parading. There's techno music playing. And there's this dude, like this totally Norse-looking dude with like a blonde beard, shirtless, muscly, like
pointing.
Somebody pushes a lady. He gets involved, and it's like,
right.
And he became this internet character. And if you look at his necklace that he's wearing, there's a remarkable similarity to the one that Trigby's wearing.
So that's the Techno Viking necklace.
That's the Techno Viking necklace, yeah.
Wow.
Techno Viking. Yeah, the Techno Viking video is really cool. This guy is serious. Like, he's no nonsense about his techno and his Germanic state of being.
I thought I would put that in. Somebody would find it like within the first week, but it's a little too nuanced, I think.
Now, a couple of minutes ago, we just talked about the dredge and the comparison from 1 to 2. And that's one thing I did notice, was that the dredge had more of a human element in 2 than in 1, where they were just this overall menacing mass that just kept chasing you no matter where you went. What went through your minds in the decision to make them a little more human? Actually seeing a family, a dredge baby, and things like that.
We want. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say it's kind of part of the larger story we have planned. Like we know where they're coming from, and why they're out on the surface, while they're out in the world, like causing problems. And over generations, the Varl have been guilty of going to war with them several times. So at the beginning of Banner Saga 1, when you see the dredge, the humans are like, what have you Varl done? Like, have you done it again? Have you stirred up? Have you gone to war and started the dredge again? So the assumption at first is, of course, there's some kind of war going on. They're attacking because we've been at war with them for generations. We haven't been for a generation, but now they're back for revenge, and we're going to have another war. But the underlying story is different. We hint ever more strongly that perhaps the dredge are fleeing for something. Perhaps the dredge are refugees just like you. Like you are you're fleeing an abandoned refugees. And they're fleeing as abandoned refugees, and you're coming into conflict because you're fleeing in the same direction, and you can't communicate, so you're just fighting.
We wanted them to feel one-dimensional in the first game, so everyone goes, "Oh, I get it," and then kind of change it. But it wasn't that heavy-handed if you actually go back and look at it. In other words, all these different confrontations that you had with the dredge, let's say Skoger, they were surrounding you and staring at you with hungry eyes. They reached for chickens, and you can attack them or not, but they were never the first bunch of confrontations until you have somebody like Bellower show up and start commanding them. They were not attacking you directly. They were trying to get food.
Yeah.
So if you'll notice, the first confrontation with the dredge was him with a deer on his shoulders.
Yep.
And of course you come into confrontation, and there's a problem with that. Right after that, they go for your chickens in Skoger, and you can go, and somebody else, some hothead, throws his axe at them because of a decision you made. So all through the game, if you go back and play it, you'll notice they're not just attacking you; they're responding, and what they're really after is food.
Yeah.
Not how many spoilers do we say in this? I don't even know.
I mean, we did kind of warn people that there were going to be spoilers. There was a fair warning.
At this point, we assume that every viewer has played Banner Saga 1, because we're playing Banner Saga 2.
2, exactly.
We're years on at this point, yeah.
But I mean, Bellower, of course, is different. Bellower is a Sunder, and he has a grudge. He's got a grudge, and he's using his powers as a leader to summon basically these dredge to follow him and assault you at Einertoft and at Borsgard. So Bellower is a little different. So there's this catastrophe, there's this massive refugees, and then there's this powerful character. Bellower is like, screw this, I'm taking you down with us. He's not having it.
He's definitely got a personal beef for some reason.
Personal beef, but everybody else is just sort of all the rest of the dredge, without Bellower present, are just trying to survive. If you watch what they're doing in Banner Saga 1, you see that they're just trying to survive.
But did he really have to take Ivor's arm, though?
I think he did.
At least he didn't take his life.
Was that really a requirement?
I think Ivor got lucky.
Yeah, he would. If Ivan and the Serpent hadn't shown up immediately afterwards, then he would have taken more than Ivor's arm, I'm sure.
Good point. I just felt sorry for Ivor after that fight, and I felt like that, like the first Bellower fight in 1, that was a fight you could really, I thought, maybe I have a chance. No.
Ivor versus Bellower, yeah.
Yeah, no. You had no chance, and you paid dearly for it. And that was another thing I wanted to go over, the not really the difficulty, because it even in battle and outside of battle, outside of the decisions you make, it felt the same in regards to the difficulty of the decisions that you had to make. But in terms of the battles, sometimes I felt like I go into this battle and I completely get annihilated. I wiped almost every time, but I was still able to move on. Well, was there ever a decision to, you know, make it essentially savage that everyone wipes, it's game over? I mean, there are some certain battles like that.
Certain battles are, but largely we're trying to balance it to be not necessarily difficult, but challenging and engaging for players. And it depends. I mean, certain players that played in factions can come into this game and they mop it up. They play it on hard level and they don't lose a fight. So it's kind of a hard thing to balance. Other players don't quite pick up the mechanic quick enough, and then they have difficulty. We've always said to people, don't feel ashamed if you're having a hard time with the battles. Just set it to easy and enjoy the story. And the battles you still might find them hard. In this one particularly, we forgot. You were playing Rook and there was a battle in the front. Remember we were talking about there's a achievement. So there was that battle in the front when you first fought the tutorial, and then he went on and fought like 9 dredge. It's actually possible to win that. That's beatable. Yeah. So that was the one that, like, I was sitting there one day and I was like, I tried 2 or 3 times and then I beat it. And when we first came out, a guy named Kakutsa, a longtime community guy and, you know, really good player, he beat it in a few days. And he put it up as like first one to get the achievement. And so that's one of those times that we said, maybe this is a little ridiculous that the very first fight that you engage in a Banner Saga 2 is freaking near impossible unless you've been around since factions, you know, and you really understand the system. But no, for the most part, we're not really trying to torture you. We're just trying to make a game that's engaging.
And the idea behind the battles and the ability, and we encourage you just to keep going, right? In fact, the save system has checkpoints, but we don't have like a free-form save system where you just go back and try it over and over again. Because we try to make it so that you lost this battle and somehow, you know, whatever, the rest of your troops drove away the enemy or some Deus Ex Machina happened that saved you. That loss, that defeat in the battle, which you survived, is now part of your story. We encourage you just to keep going. Like, okay, that happened. That's part of the story that you're creating in this thing. So you don't have to beat every battle. Your story doesn't include everybody's story is not a string of victories. You know, it could be a string of defeats with a few victories in there. You know? Yeah,
nobody.
That was definitely mine.
Nobody reads a novel like Game of Thrones or anything saying, "Oh, that was a good novel. I won." Or I lost. It was just a story. You know, Ned Stark might die, but would you flip back to the beginning of the chapter and say that didn't happen? No, I mean, that's part of what makes it emotional. And we've always wanted people to digest our game in that manner. You know, continue on. It just becomes part of your story. It should be noted that if you do lose a battle, something usually bad happens. Like you could lose a character, you could lose supplies, all sorts of negativity does happen. But continue on, you know.
You just spoiled Game of Thrones for 53 people.
Right. As long as we're spoiling our own game.
That's okay. That's okay.
You're taking everybody down with you.
Right.
I think if you haven't seen Game of Thrones at this point,
really? Do you think 6 years is long enough for that spoiler?
I think there's like a 1 or 2 year moratorium on talking about things, and then we're.
If you ever go on Facebook, it's like a 1 hour moratorium.
Darth Vader was Luke's father.
That's one of the only shows.
Come on, man.
Yep.
When it comes out, because I know people will spoil it for me if I don't.
Right.
Next, you're going to tell me he was dead the whole time.
I see dead people.
Is everybody ready for battle?
All right.
Put him off the battle. Turn to the stream.
I told the community we'll curb the spoilers from now on.
No. I don't think anybody's really upset.
No, because again, like my community, they saw me play 1, and then I played Banner Saga 2 for my birthday. I actually did a full playthrough from beginning to end. With I did a 24-hour stream, in Banner Saga 2 was one of those games.
That is awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, we marathoned it all the way through. And
cool.
Not to spoil anything, I kind of felt like, am I doing something wrong in the final battle? Like, am I really doing something wrong? How it's not possible, but somehow, some way, I figured it out off stream, of how to actually win the final battle,
Uh-huh.
and I was so glad.
That
Like,
was the final battle of Banner Saga 2, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. We've heard the final battle of Banner Saga 1 was more difficult than the one in Banner Saga 2.
I actually disagree. I think Banner Saga 2, like Banner Saga 1, it took me a few tries, I'll admit. But, whereas Banner Saga 2, I'm thinking I'm doing like something horribly wrong. And I know what to do, but I just couldn't execute it because of the randomness.
Right.
Of the lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he meant fighting the king. Okay. Now I know the fight you're talking about.
Yeah. The very, very last battle.
Right. Yep.
Now, one thing we haven't really talked about that we've heard for quite some time is the music. What was it like getting a Grammy winner such as Austin on the team? What was it like working with Austin?
Well, getting him on the team is an interesting story. You know, we were, when we started the project, it was just the three of us. We quit our jobs and we took our life savings and we said, we're gonna make this game. We're gonna make it in a year. It's gonna be really lo-fi, really low budget. You know, nothing like what you see now. It would have looked as good, but it would have been much less. You know?
I have to pipe in by saying I was going to do the music, and I did the music for the Kickstarter video, and it's a good thing we got Austin.
Arnie bought a little keyboard. They could plug in his computer, got GarageBand kicking, just made music. And
that was going to be it, man.
That's how we're going to do it. And
Are those recordings still around?
well, you listen to the Kickstarter video. It's Arnie.
That's it.
Wow.
Was that the announced trailer? Actually, there was an
That
announced.
wasn't bad at all.
No, it's
It
fine.
was the Kickstarter video. Yeah. Oh, and we did 2 videos with it actually.
Yeah, there was an announced trailer before the Kickstarter video. Yeah, so that's how we were going to do it, and we were totally cool with that. And then Kickstarter went crazy, and like, okay, now we have budget for things. Like now we can start taking things off our plate. Animation, sound effects, music, you know. So we just by virtue of having a successful Kickstarter, we were contacted by hundreds of composers. There's so many composers out there, and hundreds of them contacted us, sent us their reel. We listened to many of them, scores, dozens. We spent an entire day just listening to reels. We got down to 3. We're like, all right, we like these 3 reels. Let's go with any of these, and it'll work. We took a step back, and somebody advised us, like, hey, well, if you're having trouble deciding between these choices, approach it differently. Say, if I could choose anything, what would I choose? Like, okay, let's think about it that way. And we thought about it that way, and we had all just finished playing Journey. Like, Journey had just come out. And we were like, and I had played Journey, and the thing that just struck me about Journey from the get-go, like constantly throughout that game, there were these moments where the music and the action were so well timed together. Like, I was consciously thinking, ooh, how did they do that? Like, that, I did this move here, and then the music changed. Like, it was really well done. And so we're like, okay, let's contact Austin Wintry. And we did. And he said, yes. And that's how that happened. But working with him has been a dream because for various reasons. One of them being that he is entirely committed to the game. Like, he's so into the Banner Saga and so just passionate about it. And he puts everything he has into it. But that leads me to point number 2, because that's how he is in general. That's how he is. He's like a machine. He's the most energetic, driven person that I probably know. And he sleeps like 4 or 5 hours a night, and he's just 100% for every waking hour. So working with him has been great. He's been like a key member of this team and the collaboration on the story. So when we build the game, we'll start from the beginning discussing the story arc and the lore with him, and then come back a few months later with what we call a white box, which is basically a playable version of the game that is just all the art and stuff is stubbed in, so you can see the arc. And then he comes back with musical ideas, and that informs the arc, and goes back and forth. And yeah, so it's been great, and it's been a good collaboration, because for Banner Saga 1, we got more money than we expected. Then he joined us, and we got even more, related largely to his participation. So we were able to feed back an enormous amount of money so that he could do a full orchestra. We had 50 musicians on stage for 3 days playing recording the soundtrack for Banner Saga 1, and then again for 2. And that's not, this is like a AAA game. This is a AAA music budget,
Right.
It dwarfs anything else out there in terms of what's possible. So for him, it's like a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh, I can do anything I want. I can have this huge orchestra. We can have a thunder sheet back here and 5 timpanis, and that's what he did.
So do you foresee the budget being? Really should ask this. In the future, if there is ever work with, if you do ever work with Austin in the future, do you foresee the budget being grander? I guess, kind of step it up from 2.
It's certainly going to be hard making the budget grander than what it has been on Saga 1 and 2. But what we're doing right now is we actually just had our first. We'll kick off with Austin tomorrow on what we're going to be doing next, and we're trying to figure that out right now. We're going to go as big as we can, because it's very important to us. It's a big part of the feeling and mood when you're playing through the Banner Saga, even if it's subconscious for a lot of players. How much the soundtrack brings to the game. And I think it's one of those games that, there's a lot of games people turn off the music and they put on their headphones or whatever, listen to their favorite band. I don't think Banner Saga is one of those. I think it's really, the soundtrack evolves as you go through the game. And it's oftentimes dynamic in battles and changing. And I think players really like it. So we're going to stick with it and see what we can do on the next game. We've also we work with Kapow, who's amazing sound designers. So we got to give a shout out to them. Down in Australia as well, and they do all the sound for the game. And those guys are really talented.
That's another part of the story too. Where we had this little recorder, this tiny little handheld recorder, and we were already recording sound effects. We were crunching sticks and banging pots and pans, and we had our whole library of sound effects we were going to make. That's how low budget the Banner Saga would have been without Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go back to Austin. One of the things about Austin is that he does a lot of film work. So he's a film composer. But I think his favorite thing is games, and he's a game composer. That's a different skill set. Like, you're building music for an interactive experience where the player has control over the pacing and what happens, and can take on branching paths and stuff. So the composer of a game really has to think about that, and it's not that common really as a skill. Like, of all the really good sounding scores we receive from people, most of these guys are film composers. And it's all very linear. Like, okay, here's a battle loop, here's a travel loop, and that's not how we do it with Austin as well. With Austin, everything is like, after the music is made, Austin and I sit down and we go like step by step, like every beat of the game, and determine, okay, this music goes here. Now this transitions to here. Now you overlay in the timpanis when this happens. When you're in this battle, it gets you get halfway wounded, and it switches into this mode. That's game composing. It's totally different than film composing, which is very linear. I can show you my LP now.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
That's what I was about to ask you. Before we even started the stream, John was I think he was unpacking it, and I got a chance to look at it. And yes, what you see on John's camera, that is the recent LP. Is that 1 and 2, or is it?
No, this is just Saga 1, but we have Saga 2's available right now as well.
It's a double LP, so that's why there's 2 discs.
Okay, so that's from Banner Saga 1.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, so I cut the packaging in half. So on top you see the front
Mhm.
or the front and back of the packaging, and the bottom you see the inside of the packaging.
now
So
let me go ahead and
Leave,
I'll full size John's camera real quick. If I can get to the top.
I am
There we
8-bit did the printing and they ran the vinyls, and we've got 1 and 2 available right now.
I'll post a link to that in a second. Yeah, the Banner Saga 2 LP is on pre-order. I don't think it's been shipped yet.
Mhm.
Banner Saga 1 has shipped. It's really good.
Yeah, that is amazing. You're talking about something I would love as a fan. I would love to have this hanging up in the moment. I don't know where I would put it. I would find space for it. Yeah, I would have to replace this entire wall behind me for that. But yeah, I would definitely love something like that.
In the man cave.
Yes. Oh, you didn't know I had a man cave? This, where I'm streaming right now. This is the man cave where I'm streaming from right now. Yes, it's not really the velvet room until I get like blue lighting. I can't make this the velvet room without a little paint and then blue lighting. And then I would have to wear a suit and everything.
Awesome.
I
Now
like how he made it 3D for us by moving it right into the camera and pulling it out again. That's old
Now,
school, John.
there's so much more I would like to ask you, but I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I know that we have some questions from the community themselves. So we were able to get some questions from Twitter, from Reddit, from the Steam page, and we're gonna kind of go through those, and these will, I guess, be for pretty much everyone who can answer. Before anything, there was one question I had for you, Khatie. Since you are yes, yes, since you are the community manager, correct?
Yes.
What can we expect in the future for the Banner Saga community?
So I can't tell you everything right now, but
It's fine.
I was just hired in the last few months, and so obviously you don't hire a community manager if you don't have a lot of great plans to invite in many more people. So we're working on just giving the site and the forums a refresh, and preparing to welcome in more people, give people community the support they need to meet each other and hang out a bit more together. But one thing I do want to say is that first of all, joining the team has been like a dream. The team is amazing, as you can well see in this chat and in the game, but also the community itself it is already awesome, amazing. They're one of the friendliest, most welcoming, mature communities I've ever worked with. So that's been a joy as well.
One of the things I think we made a mistake on at Stoic is that we've had our hands full just trying to develop these games. And over the years, we just have not had the bandwidth to talk to our community and engage them. So we're really happy to have brought Khatie on board, because really our greatest hope from this is just to be able to support them and re-engage with them and let them know what we're up to and talk to them and get some of these awesome ideas that we've had in the past so that we know what they want in the game, and hopefully they can help us make it better.
Yeah, there's been moments when we've really been engaged, like during Kickstarter, of course, and when we made factions, that was incredibly invigorating. But the development process for our small team has been so demanding that there has been just periods where we just go radio silent for a long time because we're just working, and it's really kind of a shame. So we're kind of recommitting ourselves to not doing that, and just staying engaged and staying available to our players. We've done a little bit of that recently, like when we did survival mode for Banner Saga 2. That was a thing we did back in the summer, and we ran a beta for that, and that was fun getting involved again with people, testing and things like that. We really enjoy doing, and we want to do more of that.
Very nice.
Does the stream have like one moment, please, on it for me? Are you?
Yeah, I see that too.
Oh yes, it is. Oh god. Of course, I was afraid that it would do this. It's been on so long. We've been on so long that it just kind of crapped out on me. But that's okay.
Yes, on the
That's
sides.
okay. That's okay. We'll get it back. But while we get it back, it might freeze on everybody in the interim. Hopefully it comes back. Please and thank you. Yeah, it's coming back now.
I don't see the chat anymore.
Okay.
I see the chat.
The chat's still there, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna start with one of the questions I got from Twitter from @SilentFanatic. How hard was it to develop a sequel that carries over choices from its predecessor?
Well,
Barry?
yeah, it's hard for various reasons. For one thing, when you get to that point, you realize that you may not have done the appropriate bookkeeping for everything you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh shoot, did we set a variable for when the player made this decision? You gotta go back. Oh yeah, well, we did. Okay, but it's got a really weird name, so we have to make a note of that. So there's that. Just the fact of making sure all the information can get hoisted from the first and second properly. But then you have the whole idea of, characters that could die or not be with you or have gone a different way. And then you have all this content you create and write that, a lot of your players won't see. Like, for instance, Gil or Eggle. He was very hard to keep alive in Banner Saga 1. In fact, there's an achievement if you manage to do it. And only 5% of players pull it off. So in Banner Saga 2, there's all of these conversations with him, and you're writing the conversations and setting it up, realizing that only 5% of players that are bringing their save in will see this. So you're making all this content.
And that's if they haven't lost him in Saga 2.
Yeah, only certain people can go through. So you end up making a lot of content like that. And with the Rook-Alette divide of Banner Saga 2 as well, because they have different, the story develops totally differently for them. They have different roles to play, and their interactions with the characters around them are different. Rook is bereaved. His sole purpose in life was to protect his daughter.
Right.
He failed. So,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. If you couldn't see that now, yeah.
We're in
Spoiler
Banner
alert.
Saga 2 now, so he's just done. He was the de facto leader of this group, but he has no interest in leading. He just wants to die. Like if he had his way, he would walk up on the next hill, sit down, and just sit there until he was dead. That's probably what he would do.
In fact, you saw in the most recent conversation you just went through, Sly with Rugga.
Yeah.
Rugga definitely reacts to Rook differently, and that whole conversation was different with a different background and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So their stories diverge with some of the other people that are coming into contact with them and how they deal with him versus her.
It's almost a mirror image, because you have Rook, who's been the leader. Everybody trusts him. Everybody's been looking up to him. So they're like, we need you to keep leading us. And he doesn't want to. He just wants out. So they're begging him to lead. Whereas on the opposite side, if Alette is leading them, so Alette has the skills necessary, she wants to lead them, but they don't want her to lead because they have this
question
going on. Yeah, she's a young girl, and the patriarchy's like, no. And she has to say, she has to take it. She's like, no, I am the only one who can do it. I am gonna take this responsibility that I'm gonna save you. So their roles are almost exactly inverted. So there's a lot of content that gets made that not everyone will see unless they play the game multiple times.
Right. And again, this is all new to me because I've only done it from Colette's perspective. My reasoning for that, because I believe when we did the playthrough of 1 and it came down to that decision, I think we were tied, and I was the tiebreaker decision. So I wanted to keep Alette alive because I thought that's what Rook would do.
Right. No, you're not a bad father. It just by the way, in the background of John's computer, you can see Ursa. Ursa just came home.
Hi, Ursa.
Shaylee, Ursa is his favorite character.
I'm a witch,
You're a good witch. You're a good witch. Now these questions came from Reddit from Osprey. Banner Saga 1 is one of my favorite games of all time, and its only real problem is that the player can ignore starvation without much impact. However, that wasn't an issue the first time I played, since it's important. Now, I don't know about this because I actually, when I played, and this may have been me actually just using my renown every chance I get for getting supplies. I didn't. The only downside I saw to it was morale. Is there an actual downside besides losing fighters, losing Varl, losing people? Is there another downside to not having enough supplies?
There certainly is. I thought you meant is there a downside to losing clansmen and losing fighters and stuff. But no, supplies are based on morale, and you're going to lose clansmen, you're going to lose fighters, you're going to lose Varl. And those actually do matter, even though it wasn't enough in Saga 1. I think we didn't torture people enough with the numbers to make them really feel it like we could have. We backed it off a little bit, but they definitely had impacts on how difficult your battles were, and certainly what happened in Borsgard. There's some huge events in Borsgard that will or won't take place based on how many fighters you have to defend the walls. But we didn't go quite far enough, we think, in Saga 1, because not many people noticed it. So in Saga 2, we took it a little bit further and made it matter a lot more. So in Banner Saga 2, based on the amount of clansmen you have, you can forage. But more than that, you can convert clansmen into fighters. And we definitely wrapped in the danger and the combats to be more difficult if you don't have enough fighters involved. In Banner Saga 3, we've got that question a lot. Like, are you going to make it even harder or more noticeable in Banner Saga 3? Because I think players still want it to notice it more. And the answer to that one is it's going to be a very difficult question to answer, actually. And I probably shouldn't go into it. But there's going to be a lot of new stuff.
Okay. Quick question, even though we kind of already know the answer. On the Stoic Studio site, Arnie, John, Drew are presented. Time for an update, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. We've been working on that.
It shows how
Just
little
like
bandwidth
taking our time getting the right picture.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Making it over and over again. Yeah.
Wait, you can see some of the Warbands figures in front of Zeb's.
And I spoke to Zeb about that. Can you go into a little bit more detail, Zeb, about the figurines that you have in front of you? I mean, I know I can see Belor, but some people can't really see what.
Yeah, sure. I had just adjusted my camera to a lower angle right around the time that mine arrived in the mail and stuff. So I just put them down here for dramatic effect when we're video conferencing together. For some Varl. You can see Dredge here as well. These are beautiful MegaCon Games products. It's a whole hefty bag of these suckers. This is great. You play with these all day.
Yeah, last year we ran a Kickstarter with MegaCon to make this game, the Warbands board game, and it finally started shipping a few months ago, and it's out. It's great. The miniatures are top notch. I used to do a lot of miniature painting back in the day, and after several moves, I've managed to get rid of all my stuff related to that. But since getting these, I've gotten a bunch of practice miniatures and a bunch of paint. I've done a lot of painting lately. And there's a professional painter called Craftworld Studios who's doing a painting a set of them for us. Basically, what's called a box set or something. That is like high-end, beautiful pictures of them and or beautiful paintings of them. We're going to use them in shows and things and show people. And let me post a link to that because if you're ever doing miniature painting, seeing somebody like this paint them is pretty intense because I'm nowhere near that good. And to see somebody that good is pretty exciting. So he's painting. When you go to that link, you'll see stuff other than Banner Saga because he's painting a bunch of different ones. But there are some Banner Saga ones if you scroll down. Is that you, Zeb?
Yeah.
It's like he's taking a potato chip bag and just mashing it.
I got a little lost there, guys. I got a little lost.
We all want to play with you.
Another question. Do you have any plans for making the caravan size and number of fighters a more mechanically important aspect?
I think I over-answered that one.
We did make them more important in Banner Saga 2, and I realize that people want more from that. By adding things like foraging, by adding renown bonuses, like just now, the more people you save during a war scenario, the bigger your renown bonus. So it actually works out in your favor mechanically. If you invest in supplies and invest in fighters at the right amount, you'll have more renown to spend. You'll end up better off, and your heroes will be higher level. Banner Saga 1 didn't really work that way entirely. Like people could just take the morale hit and take the other aspects and just rank their heroes up higher. And we didn't like that because we want you to have a choice. We want you to be able to decide, you know what, I don't want to keep these people alive. I'm going to put all my heroes. That's how I'm going to play. But we don't want the mechanics to kind of dictate that. If you do the math, we don't want you to say this way is clearly the way to go. We want you to be able to have an option. And Banner Saga 2, I think it does a lot better job of that than Banner Saga 1. And maybe we didn't go far enough. Foraging was mentioned. There's limited opportunities to forage. It's not an open mechanic like training and things like that where you go to camp and just forage all you want. There's specific moments in the game where you can forage. So it's not an open-ended improvement. It's finite, but in terms of whether or not we can take that farther, I don't know.
Question from Leo from Stoic Forums. Factions. Any news on this? You said you were looking into ways of supporting it in parallel with Saga development.
Darn you, Leo.
Hi, Leo.
Factions is hard because it's one of those things that we really enjoy, and we know a lot of other people enjoy as well. We had a great time working on it, and it comes down to just sheer bandwidth. How many people we have on the team and what we can do with it. So we've looked into different things over the years to get some help supporting it, to do some kind of reboot like that. It's just a matter of time and effort and bandwidth. Like right now, our small team, it's all we can do to, like for Banner Saga 2, when we were working on Banner Saga 2, it's all the bandwidth we had. And even then we were biting off more than we can chew. We're always biting off more than we can chew. So, hopefully at some point we can sort of broaden a little bit and be able to take things like that.
Some of John and I's favorite times were developing for the multiplayer factions, because every day we would get feedback for the players. We could quickly iterate, get it back in, test it, have fun going back and forth. So there was that nice feedback that we like as a team. Sometimes on these long single player games, when we don't have that feedback, it's more difficult.
Okay. I've already asked about favorite characters, but favorite heroes in regard to battle ability.
That's tough to beat Bulwark, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Bulwark's pretty intense.
But Oli is probably a second favorite of mine. Oli is you love him or hate him, I think.
Right.
And when he hits 6 times in a row, you love him. When he's a little bit drunk and he misses on the first row, then maybe not so much.
Zeb, what about you?
I'm a big fan of Slag and Burn. I just like the mechanic on the battlefield and stuff. So.
Talk about something that was brutal in factions, by the way. Slag and Burn in factions was brutal.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I like the positional aspect of it. I feel like that adds a lot of dimension to the battle.
Khatie?
Okay, so I base mine on personality because I don't care about battle nearly as much as you, but I really like Oddleaf as a character. I just like her as a person. I know she's not the best in combat unless, anyway. I don't want to talk about her too much. I just like her a lot.
I like Odd in combat too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my archers. I love my archers.
I like Alette in combat a lot.
Yeah, especially if you get enough kills with Alette and you promote her a ton, Alette can be pretty beastly. Like, I love that about her.
And Banner Saga 2 specifically.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just ranged
Overwatch.
in general. Like I'm a ranged fan, so I'm not really an in-your-face fighter.
Yep.
If you give Alette a knockback item and rank up her Overwatch in Banner Saga 2, it's just madness. She is pretty crazy. Yeah, I like abilities like that. I like Oddleaf's ability, the trap. You know, basically you have to anticipate where the enemy's going to go and lay a trap for them.
I like threading the needle a lot.
Oh,
yeah, you can pull off thread the needle. The Rook's Mark Prey is pretty awesome because that again, it's like a puzzle. Like, how many people can I get in range of this enemy, and then pop up with Mark Prey?
Yeah, I never used Mark Prey my first playthrough, and on a recent playthrough, I was like, oh my gosh, why wasn't I using it?
That's like the best.
Yeah, it is.
To bring it back to factions too, a lot of these things for the single player game, we're just like, okay, what would be cool? What would be an awesome, badass, powerful skill? But if we brought that into factions, competitive, then you got a whole headache. You're like, okay, there's so many abilities in Banner Saga 2 and Banner Saga 1 that are so overpowered. They're like so OP. If you brought them out against another player, the other player would just get so mad at you.
And that's what I wanted to ask specifically. What was it like making the abilities and making sure that one, you didn't have one ability that just overpowered everything and let's just press this ability to win the game? What was it like for creating the abilities and balancing them?
We were more concerned about that in factions. Factions, everything had to be balanced on a razor's edge so that no one character is better than another, but when you utilize them together, they can be stronger than the sum of their parts. In Banner Saga 2, we cut a lot of that loose, and we felt that Alette was a little underpowered in Banner Saga 1, especially comparatively to Rook. And we purposely give some characters overpowered skills. In other words, Bulwark, the Berserk, you would expect him to be able to wreck, and he does. But at the same time, if you play him poorly, he can go down pretty quick too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say he's a glass cannon, but he's going into that direction. Alette as well, with her Overwatch. We're doing these things to give them some overpowered skills. It's a fun single-player game now. We don't have to worry about the balance of factions with multiplayer, so we're letting players have fun with it a little bit more. If it's in her power, like she's Alette, she's leading the tribe or the clan, we're going to give her a cool skill and let people have fun playing her.
Yeah. In a single player game, it's not really about balance as much as it's about fun.
Right.
Something that's perfectly balanced isn't necessarily fun.
It becomes static, right?
But in a competitive game, it does have to be balanced. It has to be fair. And hopefully you take that balance and you have enough moving parts that you choose how to, you have such a variety of combinations of strategies that's where the fun begins, is where you're choosing your strategies, choosing your combinations. But no one strategy is unbeatable. Every strategy should have a counter. And that's really important for competitive games.
Question from chat, from one of my viewers, Sickle. In Banner Saga 1, did you all cry when you had to make a decision of who had to die? And which one did you pick for your first playthrough? Which one did you let die?
I think it's hard for us to remember because we're playing in an alpha and a beta. And
right.
You're just going, click, 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 you die. All right, it worked. Go back, try it again. Oh, okay, that one worked. It's hooked up correctly. Move on. That's kind of the emotionality when you're actually playing it. When we're plotting it out, though, that's when we're saying, wow, this is going to be really deep. Previous to hooking it up is when it really hits you, the decisions that you're coming up with and the story that you're designing. The original story did not account for the ending of Banner Saga 1 to happen like it did. And it's because we didn't think players would accept something on that level, like a character that they love so much, something like that happening to them. And at some point we said, you know what, we're an indie team and we think players will come with us, and let's make these decisions really matter, not just fake it. And then you come back to the next game and it's all kind of the same story, and it didn't really. So it was definitely done, I don't want to say with malice, but with foresight to say, this is really going to affect players to see something like this, and it should really set the stage for Banner Saga 2.
Well, yeah, one day, you know, we were working, and Alex came in one day and was like, all right, guys, you know, I've been thinking about this. I think this is what we need to do. You know, I think this is how the story needs to go down. We're like, whoa, really? And then, you know, it all started coming together. Arnie started making the art. We had the funeral scene. Like, it got really powerful. In terms of the choices to make, I mean, in my mind, the canonical choice, the choice you would expect would be for Rook to die, because he would sacrifice, wouldn't allow his daughter. But the delicious irony of it is that she comes to him, you know, and says, like, you've got to let me step up. You've got to let me, you know, play my part and take responsibility. And he says, okay, you're right. This is what I should do to let you grow as a person. And then she gets killed. And this is so ironic and so terrible. That is probably the decision I think a lot of people make, because they look at it as a way, they think that they're doing the right thing. Like, they don't, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they think they're protecting her more if they don't let her take the arrow. But I think a lot of people have that conversation with her and decide to let her kind of grow up, and it backfires.
I made the canonical choice in my first playthrough. I wasn't on the team yet, so I remember more clearly. I was anticipating the game because I'd worked with these guys before and excited about it, and you know, just like tore right through it in the first day that it was out. And yeah, I think my default choice is Let to live and Rook to die, because if I'm just doing a playthrough, it's just like what I automatically do.
You're gonna say,
if I want to test the other side, I'll have to be like, oh right, okay. I have to make choices that are not my instinctual choices in order to
I'm the same. As a parent, I have to do the same thing.
I was about to make fun of Zeb for being a male chauvinist, but I don't think I can do that.
No, you can't, actually.
And that's what Rook, I mean, just judging Rook's character, that's what Rook would do. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, I don't know a parent who wouldn't, actually. Well, maybe one.
Well,
and I receive so much slack. I receive so much slack from people. You should have let Alette die. Rook should have lived. He's the better leader. But he's a father first.
He did have the better ability.
He did.
but
Alette's still growing.
Oh my gosh.
Banner Saga 2, Alette's second ability is way better than Rook's second ability. Rook's second ability in Banner Saga 2 is very nuanced.
But it could be extremely powerful, but I think a lot of players don't probably know how to use it.
It's difficult to use. It's kind of like the War Leader's ability. It's like you really got to think about turn order to make it to work for you, but you can definitely make it work for you.
Right. We already asked about the fan art and the community submissions. Now this one I believe we can kind of answer. Gift of Hatterborg, will it be in Kindle edition again? I think it already is on Kindle edition, right? On Amazon?
I believe it is, yeah.
Yes, we pasted a link to it earlier. I can do it again.
Perfect.
You can get it on Kindle or you can get it in paperback.
The Gift of Hatterborg is a really cool one. It's definitely a more deep dive into the area around Strand, and it all has to do with Eric, who is actually named after my father, and I took my father's face and put it on Eric, who's known as the Iron Turtle in Strand, and he's a pretty tough guy, and it's basically a lot of intrigue and what he deals with in Strand. Fun story.
Yeah, I definitely will be reading. Before I think that's all the questions. Before we've kind of went way past our time, but before we go, any closing thoughts from all of you? I'll start with Khatie. She's right above me.
Yeah, sure. So I
style.
just posted a link for you guys to share. Go to our forums at stoicstudio.com. You can share your Banner Saga fan art, any creations you have, stories. We're also on Instagram, and we follow DeviantArt when we try to find stuff that people are doing and tweet it out and share it on social media and stuff. So by all means, come to our forums. You can reach me there anytime. There's a chat box. You can say hi to other fans. Yeah, you can find us. And I've been posting links in here, kind of spamming the chat.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much.
For all the places you can get the game. So yeah, thank you very much too, Sly. We really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. John, since Zeb kind of AFK'd. He AFK'd. So John, I'll go to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. It's been really good talking. We didn't really make much progress into the game. I think we dominated.
Yeah, we've kind of been talking, and like the conversation is just the conversation. But
we'll have to come back for your next birthday so you can play again.
Yeah, we definitely hope everybody watching, joins us in our community. Follow us. We have a newsletter as well that we send out occasional cool stuff. We don't spam you or anything. We don't beg you to buy stuff or anything. It's just you occasionally will get some cool stuff from us. And yeah, just keep in touch with us, follow us on all those things, and talk to us on our forums, and we'd be really happy.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us, Sly. This was great. A lot of fun.
We say big thanks to Versus Evil, our publisher, and to Mel for setting this up and all that stuff.
Yes, thank you.
No, we did now. Well done, Zeb.
I was gone for a minute, so I wasn't sure if you already said it.
Yeah, Zeb, we were just doing closing thoughts, and Zeb, you just kind of AFK'd, but I was wondering if you had any other closing thoughts.
Just make the choices that are in your heart, and make the video games that are in your heart if you want to make video games.
That's deep, dude.
Yeah, Zeb going deep, man. Arnie, any closing thoughts from you?
No, but I'm actually really glad Zeb brought up our publisher Versus Evil. They were awesome. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Khatie, as well. But no, I always love doing stuff like this. There's a lot of times after we launched Banner Saga 1, even for some reason more so than Banner Saga 2, I did a lot of lurking on Twitch and talking to players and on Twitch and whatnot. So this is always a lot of fun for me. And,
I think Arnie has watched hundreds of hours of Banner Saga being played.
I sure have.
Places like hundreds.
I'm so glad you weren't there on my birthday, because I was horrible. I was horrible in battle, and especially in the last few battles. I was horrible, and like all the decisions. Again, it was on chat, so I really can't take the blame for that one. Everything that happened, but in actual battle, I was horrible.
I've watched hundreds of hours of bad people playing our game.
Unvarnished, look at how people are experiencing it, and
yeah, there's no other way to do it.
Sometimes you see people really enjoying bits that you're glad they do. Sometimes you see people having trouble with bits, and then you can maybe go back and refine those a little bit. Say, okay,
back in the day when we worked at large companies, we would have people in shifts of 8 or 10 come in and play the game, and we'd be behind a one-way mirror, and they know they're being watched. So when you come into Twitch and you just lurk, you really see their reactions. You see, some dude's crying during a certain part, and it's okay, we did good there, and you get to see the reactions of the people that are listening to him. So this is the #1 way, I think, for developers to actually watch how people digest their game.
Right.
But yeah, thank you very much, Sly. This was awesome, and I'm really glad that you enjoyed the game enough to play it on your birthday. That's pretty special to us.
Oh yeah, I had to. It was. When I talked to Mel about it, I was like, I had like my birthday stream, a 24-hour stream. This is going to be part of the stream.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks to everybody who watched us tonight too. You guys were great, and you asked good questions.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great. I love answering questions, especially good ones.
They love answering questions.
Thank you all for making this awesome game, this awesome community. This wouldn't have happened without you. So, again, thank you all so much. Khatie, Zeb, John, Arnie, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Wouldn't happen without you guys either.
And thank you all for watching, everyone. And I hope to see you all soon. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.